and welcome to episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Liminars League podcast. I'm your host, Hal Greenblatt, and producing the show is my man, Austin Needs. I want to thank you for joining us. Again, I want to thank Dr. Michael Sagas and the University of Florida for this opportunity to discuss athletes in transition. Each podcast, as we said before, is going to have a different athlete who has dealt with transition, whether it's out of sport, learning to transition out of sport, or preparing to leave sport in general. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you my friend, Frank Iguodala. Frankie grew up in Springfield, Illinois. From a young age, he excelled at all sports. Frank's story of transition it's quite the intriguing one, as he was able to figure out how to use sports to set up his future. Frank also had the challenge of competition within his own family, as his brother is currently playing in the NBA, so dealing with the identity of potentially moving forward with a career in professional sports or not played into Frankie's decision. So with that, Frankie, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, and welcome.
Absolutely. Hal, thanks definitely for having me on. Look forward to definitely a topic that my peers and I have talked about for a long time.
Now, your background, the quick background, you played at Dayton. You played at a junior college before you went to Dayton, but we're going to take it all the way back. Tell me a little about how you grew up in youth sports. What was your sport? Because I mentioned that you were pretty athletic, so you did a lot of little things. So give me a little background.
Yeah. I'm growing up. My neighborhood, we played all sports, from football, basketball, track and field. Played a little bit of baseball. Growing up, even some swimming. Not really competitive, but we kind of turned everything into a competition. But we definitely were athletes of all trade.
And so you grew up in Springfield, Illinois, Chicago area. Obviously a huge sports town. I'm assuming, like me, you idolize Michael Jordan. So tell me about what drew you to basketball.
Honestly, I was a better and more interested football player growing up. Basketball is just something that I kind of just naturally gravitated towards. When it came time to pay for school, basketball was going to be the route for me to get a scholarship plan for school. So that definitely was a huge factor for not only for myself and my parents, but just more so even the love of the game from watching, like you said, Michael Jordan growing up, practicing those shots, hitting those game winners in your head that you see on TV every single day, was something definitely that went on every single day in our household.
So you said basketball was not your first love, but you knew that was going to be your way to get that college education.
Yeah.
And you said football was what you wanted to play, right?
Correct. Yes.
So how did you end up leaving football? Because it's interesting. You have kind of dual transitions. You left the sport you love to go to the sport that's going to get you to where you are. Yeah. So tell me about leaving football first.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. On my high school season, senior season in high school, just kind of the recruitment process, kind of seeing how things were going along. Really toward, I would say, latter in the spring season, after football's over, basketball's over. I was still one of the guys that hadn't made a decision yet, and it just kind of came time to look, what's kind of the most feasible way for us moving forward. And education was always key in our household. And the farther for me and the furthest for me that I was going to be able to go was definitely going to be the basketball route. Not only education wise, but like I said, for as far as economic wise as well for us paying for school. So it was definitely a tough decision. I remember my last football game, even kind of thinking, because I wasn't getting recruited like I thought it would be for football. And it was like my last All-Star game. I remember walking off in tears, like this could be my last football game ever. And I think about that a lot, because that was the last time that I played tackle football.
And it's tough when you're transitioning out of the sport you love, obviously. And so it was high school the last time you played?
Yeah. High school, 1999.
Wow. So tell me about a little bit of that journey into the junior college route where you went for basketball.
Yeah, junior college was a very interesting route, because a lot of times you find guys who are academically challenged going to the junior college level. That's something that I didn't have an issue with. It was more so trying to prepare me to play at the Division I level, and possibly even the Division II level. So getting there, you see a lot of different guys coming through. You kind of get an intro into college courses in the sense of you have to time manage, and you're kind of on your own. No one's really there pushing you. per se, like you are if you're at home, or if you're with teachers that you've had relationships for a while back at home in high school. But it wasn't terribly difficult for myself as far as academics. But athletic wise, it just was definitely a transition, just with the amount of personalities that you have at the junior college level. Very, very fast paced at the junior college level. So it was definitely a transition, I would say. Took a couple months getting used to, but being a very adaptive person in my style of game of just being the hustle guy, rebound defense guy, that type of player is going to find some minutes on the court.
For sure. And you played junior college for 2 years, right?
I did, yes, 2 years, yes. After 1 year, I could have transferred out, but again, we always think that we're better than what we are. We can go higher levels than what we can go, or what we probably will go. But for me, it actually worked out. The second year was huge for me. Made a big jump. I was able to go to get a look at University of Dayton, which was a unique situation in itself and how I got there. But it ended up working out because that was definitely probably the highest level of my ability that I definitely could reach. So that was fun.
Tell us a little bit about that story of how you got to Dayton, because you mentioned it was an interesting story.
Yeah, so I was actually looking at some smaller level, like Ohio Valley, Missouri Valley Conference, Division I level teams. Dayton came in kind of late, where it was down to a couple teams that I would say maybe a little lower level. Won't mention any names, but Dayton came in as like, hey, we have one scholarship left that we thought we might have used it on someone else, but they were we're going to maybe Prop 48 him. Just made me think of the late great can't believe I'm drawing a blank.
John Chaney.
John Chaney, yeah. So kind of had a John Chaney situation with one of my teammates who was a great guy. So I was able to, that scholarship came up that I was able to get kind of very late in the recruitment process. So that was definitely a huge kind of enjoyment to me, because Dayton was to me a very high level. It wasn't your necessarily Arizona Duke type of program, but for a guy like me coming from junior college, playing 1 year of varsity basketball in high school, University of Dayton was a big deal to me.
And at that point, Dayton was also a rival of my Temple Owls, as we mentioned, John Chaney, and you and I have discussed that many times in the past.
Yes, you were a rival.
That's true. We've since moved on to the American, and Dayton has since moved up to a higher caliber of play. So
yes,
we're both on to different levels now. So you're at Dayton for 2 years. Tell us a little about your thoughts about maybe going professional. What was your major in college? Because I know that those kind of intertwine with deciding what to study versus aiming to go MBA or Europe or whatever it may be.
Right. So honestly, in my head, I never really pictured or dreamed of playing professional basketball. I always dreamed and pictured of being a professional, just adult. I was always good at math, so finance was something that was always of interest to me. So I ended up studying finance. So it definitely worked out for what I end up doing now in kind of a roundabout way. But as far as playing professional or NBA or Europe, it's something that never really crossed my mind a ton. After I graduated, I knew my brother was kind of going to get drafted, so I might have had a couple chances of going overseas. But it's just something that I was honestly really kind of burnt out of basketball at that point in time. So it was like there's some opportunities outside of basketball in life that I was excited to be a part of.
So a lot of times we talk about transition, which is the point of this podcast, to educate athletes on their transition. And you mentioned two key words: burnout. Mm-hmm. What do you think led to that burnout and the ultimate transition of leaving basketball and not pursuing a professional opportunity?
College and even professional. People think professional sports is easy. These guys make millions of dollars. Their life is, all these, everything's all butterflies. But it's not. It's tough. So for me, at the college level, it was, just the everyday grind. In that moment and in that space, that's all you know. And you always, at least far as me, was wondering, what's going to be after life? What am I going to do after this? I wasn't your, score 20 points a game, play 20, 30 minutes a game type of person. So it was taking a toll on me, not only mentally, but also physically as well. So it was definitely something that was tough just because, you love the sport. You think you're going to play forever. But it was definitely there mentally where it's like, we're waking up 6 a.m., working out practices. You're going to classes all day in a very tough curriculum, might I add, at the finance level and at the University of Dayton, which is a really good school. And then you're practicing at night as well, and you got games, and you're traveling. So it definitely takes a toll on you mentally and physically.
So it sounds like the transition to leave the sport, the decision was pretty easy for you. But actually transitioning out, what can you say was the easiest and the hardest about it?
Transitioning out in the moment, you think that you're ready to leave. Like, I'm done with this. I don't think I want to do this anymore. You really just need a break, a reset, which is something that you realize when you get older and get more mature, just in life. Sometimes you need a break just from anything, and just regular everyday scope of life. You need a break, you need a reset. So for me coming out, it was a different transition, I would say, from your average athlete, just because, coming out with my brother when he got drafted with the Sixers. So I was still kind of able to stay close to basketball, going to watch him play and going to play games at the LA Fitness here, where it was very competitive still with overseas guys, and just being in that circle of basketball, I still was kind of close to basketball. I would say probably years later, when I started really focusing more on my professional life, and not being able just to get up and go play basketball every day. Like, hey, I have a child now, I have to take care of, I have a family I have to take care of. So I would say that's probably when it's really started to sink in, that it's like life is different now.
Right. Now you mentioned your brother and getting drafted. So you ended up in Philadelphia with him, and obviously coming from an ultra competitive family where, you've two guys who both make it Division I, one's getting drafted. What kind of effect did it have on you? Did you feel like you were a little left behind? Were you just completely supportive? What was your role? How were you feeling there?
Oh, I was 100% supportive. I've always had my brother's back. That's just the type of family that we grew up in. We have each other's back. And we were competitive even in high school, though, just because we went to separate high schools. A lot of people don't know we actually kind of played against each other. Not really. I was a senior. He was a sophomore, just starting to play a couple minutes on the varsity team. So just beyond that, in his JV games, his freshman games, I have a different, warm-up worn jersey in the crowd, screaming and cheering for my brother who's playing for a different team that my coach doesn't like that I'm doing that, but I don't care what you think. That's my brother out there scoring 20 points. I don't care. So always had his back, always super excited for him, especially when you reach the level that he's at now. I still tell people to this day, it's really surreal when you kind of take a step back and look at everything that he's accomplished. Definitely proud of little big bro, as I call him.
So going back to the separation and the transition, while you left college and your thoughts of going pro were done, you knew that you weren't planning on doing that. You said that you wanted to use college to get the education. Your separation was kind of still in limbo, as you mentioned. You were still playing highly competitively at different areas in Philadelphia. So if you could describe your transition to life after sports after you stopped playing in the rec leagues, what's the one word you would use?
One word that transition it out. That's a tough one. I would say probably eye-opening.
Okay.
Yeah, eye-opening in the sense that it's more so a transition in life, and you can kind of see the bigger picture, like in all things. And I say that because the relationships that you build in basketball, you can kind of use those to transition in life as well. And that's really kind of what's helped me a lot. It was eye-opening in the sense of kind of what basketball created for me and created for our family. And also that kind of helped me in trying to kind of decide what I wanted my passion to be for the rest of my life, which brought me to what I do now. and pursuing now in refereeing. So I don't necessarily want to go out there or play every day. I might not have the ability or the opportunity to go out and play every day, but I can still contribute to a sport that's given so much to me and my family through refereeing.
Right. We're going to get to that. Don't you worry. So in the months, the time that you had just finished playing, how did it change really? How did your life change? Because, you graduated, you're playing the rec league. So let's say you're 25, 26 now,
Mhm.
how did your life change a little bit?
Well, now I have a child, now, I have a spouse that depends on you, every single day. So it's not just about you anymore. So we're waking up, 6 o'clock in the morning, getting your kids ready for school, getting breakfast ready, getting milk bottles ready out the freezer. Then you're going to work. And then after work, you're coming home. Again, you're hanging out with the family, taking care of what needs to be taken care of at home. And then before you know it, it's 9, 10 o'clock at night. And hey, we got to get up and repeat this again tomorrow. So that's kind of when it kind of got real for me that life's different. Life's different, and it's going to be different.
Well, it's interesting. The way that you're explaining, you're kind of equating it like you're still playing, where you have this set routine where instead of waking up and working out at 6 a.m., you're making the bottles, then you're going to work as opposed to practice. It's interesting that at least that's how I perceive the way that you just said it. But your routine went from athlete to parent, but it still has the same kind of structure, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's what I say when I mean like when you make that transition, from basketball to life, it's similar. It's very the same, and the sooner that you can realize that, and the sooner that you can kind of embrace that, the same way we did when we were on the basketball court or on the football field or in any athlete in general, the sooner we can translate that, then the better success you can have in life. Because you can fall off, the opposite. You can not work out, not getting up, going to play sports, and say you don't have a family. You hanging out at night. You sleep until 11 noon. I definitely had those moments, of course, but I think having a child early at 23, 24 for me, which is a very big deal for me. And then also, like I said, still being close to basketball and my brother and kind of a set routine. That definitely helped guide me in the transition.
So what parts of your life were most impacted by the transition? Obviously, having a kid was massive. That's a given. But what other aspects of your life was really impacted by your leaving competitive sport?
Oh, definitely work and kind of what I choose, what I do as a profession. Just being in sales, have a sales background. And again, it's about those routines. It's about sorry, a phone call here. It's about those different routines and being consistent every single day. Just like you try to win the day in sports, you have to win the day in life, win the day at work. And like I said, being in sales, that's something that yesterday didn't matter, last week didn't matter, last month didn't matter. If you want to be successful in your career, that's something you have to win today. You have to have a plan for tomorrow. You have to have processes to review those plans, if they're working, if they're not working. Just like basketball.
Did you notice any changes in personal relationships with friends or family, coaches after you left sport?
Not really. And again, I think my situation is still different, just still being close to athletes in general. Now I might be meeting different agents or people that are just necessarily in the sphere of athletes and sports in general, other players, family members, still kind of close to the athlete circle, I would say.
So when we were doing our little pre-show or prep, you told me a great story of how you got into your initial career in finance, and you were playing in a poker game at a player's house.
Yes. Yes.
And this is soon after you came to Philly with your brother. So can you tell me a little bit about that story? And because it seems like that really helped facilitate your transition into the real world.
Yep, definitely did. We're actually at one of my brother's teammates' house from the Sixers. They have a nice little poker table there. They're all playing. and one of his teammates' financial advisors actually, his business card fell out of his pocket, picked it up, and saw he worked for a financial firm. I'm like, hey, I moved here literally like 2-3 weeks ago. And my brother's not the type of person that's just like, hey, here's a bunch of money, go live life. It's like, hey, you need to get a job. So I'm like, hey, I need a job. I majored in finance. This is something that I'm interested in doing. So that next day, went down to his office, ended up working there for like 8-9 years. Had a really good career there. Transitioned kind of to what I do now with real estate for my main job. And it definitely got my path going as far as my career wise.
Now, were there any other activities besides the poker game that helped kind of rebuild your new life after sports?
Besides the poker game, I mean, just in general, just from being around those types of individuals, going to the Sixer games, going to different dinners and fundraising events. For different sponsors that my brother worked with, just being around those types of people and that type of crowd. They say, you're going to be similar to the 5 or 6 people that you hang around. So that's something that my brother believed in well, and I'm just kind of taking it all in. Looking back, again, it was all kind of surreal to me. So I'm very fortunate to be in that situations.
Now, when you left, we're going to go back to college real quick. So when you left, when you transitioned out of sport, did you feel like you lacked any skills or resources that made the transition more challenging, or did you feel pretty strong about where you were and what you were doing?
I would say initially I felt really strong, and I just think that just comes with just being young and just unaware. But once I did kind of get closer into the transition, or more so into the transition of taking care of myself and my family. And being responsible every single day of, like I said, winning the day, just kind of having, I would say, that mindset that I think the average person coming out of college doesn't really have, or resources that the average person, they don't have, that I might have had. I might have had a struggle where I might not have made enough money in a month or two. I had resources that were able to help me out. Where the average person, they're just thrown out. I think the average athlete is thrown out into the real world and they're not prepared, or they don't have the support from their family. And honestly, they might not know that there is support out there. There are avenues out there that you can attain, that you can reach out to by just simply asking questions to the right person. So I think just overall, as athletes in general, just making them kind of aware of what's going to happen after life after sports, and the options that they have, and the people and resources that might be at their thumbs that they don't know. Specifically, especially I would say coming from the universities that they come from.
Right. And you mentioned that you were fortunate to have some of those opportunities with your brother, and the people you're able to meet with the doors open. And let's be honest, you kicked those doors in. You kind of made your own way, and that's
Absolutely.
That's important. So now we're back in the reincorporation phase. We're getting back to sport. We've gone through the separation phase when you've said goodbye and you've moved on. We've hit on the liminal phase where you're stuck between transitioning out and moving on to the real world. And now we're in your new life. You've adapted to life after sport. What would you say was the hardest stage for you to navigate?
Honestly, there was a period where I wasn't 100% sure in my finance career if that was something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and then kind of figure out what else is there for me to do. What else can I do? That was a period of kind of thinking of transitioning careers that I really struggled with. It's like, this is all I've done. I don't know what else there is out there for me to do, besides, my background in sports, and then my finance career, which was heavily involved with, athletes as clients, and which made me successful in those years. So it's kind of figuring out, who am I? What am I going to be for the rest of my life? That was something that I struggled with for a period of time, definitely.
When do you think you finally realized who you were? Because obviously not everybody knows what they want to do for the rest of their life. But when do you think you realized who you were and you made that separation? You're just like, I got this.
Well, I think I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. I think I have a better idea of who I am. I'll be 40 here soon, so I just think just being old, becoming older, more mature, and just living life. Life will definitely humble you and teach you lessons. So I think definitely these last couple of years I've kind of honed in on what I want to do with the rest of my life. Fell in love with golf, so that definitely helped. But yeah, definitely these last few years, I've kind of trying to figure things out. I would say have a better understanding of who I am and where I'm going, and where, more importantly, where I want to go.
Now, you mentioned it a few minutes ago. You've been reffing, and you've been doing that when we spoke before about 7-8 years now, right?
Yep.
So, how long did it take you to reintegrate yourself back into competitive sport after, leaving the rec league, working on the family, working on you, building your business, becoming a real estate agent? How long did it take you to decide, I want to get back in sport and try to make this a career again?
Yeah, well, initially, I was thinking maybe thinking about getting back in coaching. Coaching was something that honestly I never really wanted to do, just because I saw what my coaches went through, and it's a lot. And I'm a family guy, and I want to be home with my family. After work, I want to go home, I want to hang out with my wife, I want to hang out with my kids. That was always my mindset growing up. So coaching was kind of something that I looked at as that's just something I didn't want to do. So thinking about kind of what can I do in basketball or something similar to basketball to keep me close to the sport. I had actually a coworker of mine who was an official that we had talked about him officiating, and we're just kind of talking about the processes of becoming, professional official. And it was something like, wow, like this may be it. And I really fell in love with that right away.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was that was definitely an experience. Those first couple year or twos officiating, because you think but you have no idea.
I think that could be the ultimate saying for professional athletes and their relationship with referees.
Absolutely.
All right, Frank, we're coming to an end. So our final part we do is paying it forward. So if you had the opportunity to meet with a group of current college students, they're in their senior year, they're getting ready to transition, either to go to grad school, to leave sport, maybe professional sport. What's one vital piece of information that you would share with them about your transition that you experienced during the end of your sports career?
One thing that one of my mentors always tells me that helps me a lot when I'm thinking and kind of second guessing myself, just be yourself. If you're a college athlete, you've done a few things well in your life, in your sport and in your academia. Those are hard things to do. Not everyone can accomplish those, no matter what level that you're at. So I would definitely say just be yourself, and being yourself, you'll find out your paths in life and different ways to go. Just like I said, there's a ton of different ways and different avenues that being a college athlete you can go in life. So just be yourself is actually something that I have on my office to kind of as a daily reminder that we got this, and being ourselves every single day, we're definitely going to win.
Beautiful. Now, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it the same way?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome, Frankie.
I'm a type of guy.
I appreciate it, Frank. You're the best. On behalf of my guy Austin, on behalf of Frankie, I want to thank you all for tuning in. And remember, progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So until next time, thanks for listening.